This is her mansion in Irvington, New York. Normally, people don't get a chance to go inside, but we're taking you in. Fantastic. Can you imagine in 1918 the reaction in the neighborhood when people found out that this was being built by a self-made millionaire who was a black woman?
The other James Brown Boulevard, the one that leads to the Godfather's house, and we have exclusive access. The long sloping driveway takes you directly to the home itself, a single-story ranch sitting on about 80 acres.
Across the vast, sprawling thousands of square meters of America, there stand regal and magnificent mansions once owned by legendary black icons. But a grim irony persists. These opulent sanctuaries are slowly perishing in cold neglect, with no soul daring to claim them. Even as they are auctioned for a mere $1, visitors often recount bone-chilling experiences of spectral figures lingering in the shadows of the villa. They speak of grotesque sounds erupting from phonographs in dust-choked rooms, and wooden chairs that rock and shift with a frenzied rhythm as if possessed by a violent, indecipherable supernatural force. What, then, is the true horror lurking behind these walls? Hold your breath and join us in a journey through 17 haunted villas of black icons where spirits still linger, waiting to recount their final stories right now. 1. Villa Laro, Wrath. Amidst the herbal scent Irvington, this 34-room manor looming over the Hudson River is no mere relic of the past. To history, Villa Laro stands as a cathedral of pride, a steel-willed manifesto of the first black self-made female millionaire, Madam C. J. Walker. Behind the grandeur of its neoclassical facade, a shadow energy has never truly rested. The most chilling whispers insist Madam Walker never truly abdicated her throne, even after drawing her final breath in 1919. An artifact restoration expert once recounted in horror the moment he stood alone in Madam Walker's bedroom at twilight. As the last ray of sunlight vanished, the air abruptly thickened, becoming so heavy that his chest was squeezed tight, as if someone were seizing his ribcage. Immediately after came a phenomenon to make one's hair stand on end, a surge of hot, feverish air stifling as the breath of a high fever pressed against the nape of his neck. With it came the thick scent of herbal oils, the pungent signature of her legendary hair formula. This aroma did not merely drift, it struck the brain, overwhelming all sense of reality. It was the sign. The soul of history's most powerful woman stood directly behind him, mere millimeters away. This mansion operates under ruthless, unspoken laws, where every intruder is subjected to the scrutiny of a wrathful spiritual entity. Maintenance staff claim that at the slightest profanity or a disrespectful laugh, the doors, as black and heavy as coffin wood, will jerk and slam shut simultaneously by an invisible force. On nights of the full moon, security cameras frequently capture blurred streaks of light, shadows resembling a noblewoman. The rustle of silk skirts, elegant yet commanding, echoes steadily across the hardwood floors. This is no trick of the wind. It is the rhythmic stride of a matriarch silently patrolling her legacy, ensuring the sanctity of her home is never defiled by the irreverence of the living. 2. Beach Island Mansion, the Christmas Eve. Funeral Dirge, South Carolina. Deep within the ancient, skeletal trees where shadows consume Beach Island, South Carolina, lies the estate of the godfather of soul. To James Brown, this was the fortress where a legend drew his final breath in absolute solitude on Christmas Day, 2006. But death brought James Brown no peace. Instead, it twisted the manor into a resentful time trap, where every corner bleeds the heavy breath of lingering rage. The epicenter of this horror sits silently in a corner of the living room, the cursed Christmas tree. A few paparazzi who dared to trespass have recounted with shudders that at the stroke of midnight, though the power has long been severed, the tattered decorative lights coiled around the tree suddenly ignite. They glow with a cold, spectral blue, like will-o'-the-wisps. That sinister light drapes the dust-caked furniture in a ghostly hue, turning the space into a foreign, harrowing realm, as if you had stepped into another dimension where time froze the very second James Brown died. From the dead-bolted basement studio, earth-shattering thuds erupt, a staccato of desperate clawing, like one buried alive struggling to splinter through thick wood. Amidst the pounding, wheezing rasps emanate from the void, like a warped phonograph gasping for one last high note, only to dissolve into the suffocating groans of a throat filled with grave soil. 3. Hancock Park Mansion, the veiled breath of Nat King, Cole, Los Angeles. In the affluent enclave of Hancock Park stands a Tudor manor where music could never truly drown out the echoes of resentment. Nat King Cole purchased this estate in search of sanctuary, only to draw his final breath from lung cancer amidst a siege of cigarette smoke and the bitter stings of racial animosity. Though smoking has been banned for decades, those entering the main foyer are stunned by a hazy, gray mist eternally suspended in the air. This smoke does not dissipate, it remains thick, carrying the stale scent of tobacco mingled with the chilling dampness of deep earth. Many visitors have recoiled in horror, clutching their throats as they feel the unmistakable grip of an invisible, skeletal hand squeezing their windpipe. This is no mere hallucination, it is a bone-chilling reenactment of Nat's fatal struggle for air in his final moments. 4. Neverland Ranch, Michael Jackson's Sleepless Nightmare, California. We may all remember Neverland as a realm of dreams, but once the stage lights vanished, it transformed into a labyrinth of unredeemed sorrow. Michael Jackson departed in a feverish haze of sedatives and eternal exhaustion, leaving behind a kingdom where the silence is now more terrifying than any scream. Within the desolate corridors of the main manor, where laughter once echoed, only the chill of obsession remains. Security cameras have repeatedly captured a scene that freezes the blood of any witness. A slender, solitary shadow abruptly appearing to perform the King of Pop's signature dance moves in the dead of night. This entity does not dance for joy or the glow of the spotlight. It glides aimlessly, executing a smooth yet macabre moonwalk through thick wooden walls like a beggar of memories. As night falls over the abandoned amusement park, amidst the deathly stillness, the music from vintage music boxes suddenly triggers. They do not emit soothing melodies. Instead, they spin faster and faster until the sound becomes strangled, distorted, and shrieks with a ghoulish pitch from a resentful eternity. Those who have set foot here recount a bone-chilling sensation, as if dozens of eyes are tracking their every move. And when they whip around, the bronze statues of children in the garden seem to have shifted positions in the blink of an eye, their metallic lips frozen in deep reproach, staring into the void as if guarding a painful secret their master took to the grave. 5. El Palathio apartment, Dorothy Dandridge's Solitary Rose, West Hollywood. There are sorrows so profound that even death cannot soothe them. They crystallize into stains of time, clinging to the place where a final breath was drawn. At the El Palacio Apartments, Dorothy Dandridge, the radiant flower who became the first black woman nominated for an Oscar for Best Actress, ended her life in 1965, steeped in utter poverty and absolute solitude. The apartment where Dorothy spent her final days remains a time capsule of melancholia. Residents frequently encounter a bizarre phenomenon. Though the faucets are bone dry, the bathroom mirror suddenly fogs over from a phantom heat rising from the void. From behind that misty veil, Dorothy's exquisite yet haggard face gradually emerges, her eyes rolled back in a haunting gaze, staring into reality like a silent indictment of life's callousness. Subsequent tenants recount frequently discovering long, slender strands of cold, black hair abnormally coiled around the bedposts, creating the chilling sensation that Dorothy's spirit remains, silent and desperate, clutching for any lingering warmth to save herself from the fatal stroke in that freezing room. Whenever the clock strikes exactly 2:00 a.m., the air grows thick and suffocating. From deep within the aged wooden walls, the sound of clawing fingernails erupts, rapid, sharp, and bone-dry, intermingled with stifled, sobbing cries that dissolve into the void. 6. Mansion, Outer Drive, Niet Marvin Gaye, Detroit. Standing as a silent witness to one of music's darkest hours, the Outer Drive Mansion in Detroit marks the very spot where Marvin Gaye, the beloved Prince of Soul, was robbed of his life by his own father in April of 1984. Some houses can never wash away the bloodstains of the past, especially when that blood is spilled by the hand of one's own kin. The mansion on Outer Drive in Detroit remains the site of one of music's most harrowing tragedies, where the Prince of Soul, Marvin Gaye, was robbed of his life by his own father on an April day in 1984. Despite numerous renovations, the manor cannot shed the lingering chill of death. A longtime neighbor, who passes by at dusk, recounts that on the anniversary of the singer's passing, the hallway leading to the bedroom suddenly reeks of the metallic tang of fresh blood, so pungent it overwhelms every sense. This scent comes from no physical wound. It seems to seep from the very grain of the aged wood, resurrecting the catastrophic atmosphere of that fateful afternoon. In the suffocating silence of the living room, a visitor once stood paralyzed as vinyl records fell from the shelves and began spinning backward on the turntable. From the vintage speakers, instead of the smooth melodies of "What's Going On?" or a raspy, distorted voice, Marvin's voice whispered desperate pleas for life. At that moment, beneath the dim lights, the shadow of a man holding a gun manifested on the plaster wall. Motionless and cold, a specter of a sin that has never been cleansed. A former housekeeper once confirmed, trembling, that on the darkest nights, violent arguments still erupt from the empty rooms. That gunshot did not just end a life, it became a dark curse embedded in the timber, leaving the outer drive mansion a permanent black hole of sorrow, where the victim's soul has not known a single day of peace. 7. Whitney Houston Estate, the chill of the Fatal Bath, New Jersey. Do not let the splendor of marble deceive you, for this Mendham Township estate is no mere mansion. It is a mausoleum housing souls frozen in agony. Amidst the ivory corridors, the darkness is not just an absence of light, but a living entity, strangling reality with the icy breath of a dynasty that perished in anguish. Here, silence offers no peace. It carries the scent of death lurking behind every velvet curtain. An elderly caretaker, clinging to dust-shrouded memories, speaks of terrifying nights when the New Jersey mist devours the estate. From the sealed master bedroom, bathtub water suddenly erupts in a torrent, though the valves have been locked for years. Under a flickering flashlight, the old man has watched in horror as sodden footprints manifest on the thick carpet, creeping from the bath to a dead halt beside the bed, as if a corpse had stepped out of eternity to scavenge for one final spark of warmth. Guests recount in shock how, in the dead of night, a soaring voice suddenly tears through the void, the proud sound of a golden era. Yet in an instant, that celestial melody snaps, twisting into the muffled, distorted gurgling of one struggling in a desperate drowning. Most terrifying are security reports of a drenched, pallid hand reaching from the shadows, gripping shoulders with a violent, dragging force. The sensation of ice-cold water seeping through clothing is so visceral that guards feel they are being pulled to the bottom of that fatal tub, where an angelic voice was forever extinguished by solitude and the freezing tide. Los Feliz Mansion, Sam Cooke's scream of despair. Los Angeles. Every timber of the Los Feliz estate does more than breathe the air of a bygone era. It is saturated with the fury of one of music's darkest mysteries, a black box imprisoning the soul of Sam Cooke. The truth behind his demise lies not within tarnished police files, but bleeds nightly from the cracks of time, cold, bitter, and laden with resentment. Imagine standing in this hallway at the stroke of midnight. A longtime mechanic was once paralyzed with fear, witnessing a dark fluid seep from the bedroom door, spreading beneath his feet only to vanish into thin air just as he reached out, leaving only the metallic tang of iron to sear his senses. The sound system abruptly triggers, yet instead of the smooth melodies of a change is gonna come, it broadcasts only ragged, gasping breaths and the heavy thud of footsteps, a never-ending chase for life within the encroaching shadows. According to a report from a night security guard at this villa, he swore he faced a muscular shadow manifesting in the middle of the walkway. The entity was naked, with cavernous black holes torn into its chest, the brutal remnants of bullets that shredded flesh. In the dead silence, a heart-wrenching scream. "She shot me!" rings out like a crack of thunder, followed by a violent thud against the wooden walls, as if a body had just been desperately struck down. At the window panes overlooking the valley, instead of the night scenery, onlookers have recoiled in horror at the sight of a bloodied hand frantically clawing at the glass, leaving behind deep crimson streaks before dissolving into nothingness. It is the plea of a legend still imprisoned within his own legacy, demanding a justice that has been buried beneath tragedies for over half a century. 9. Aretha Franklin Estate, the Cathedral of Specters, Detroit. When the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, drew her final breath in 2018, many believed she had finally found peace in her glory. Yet, the bitter disputes over her estate and the avarice of the living have awakened a vengeful energy within this Detroit manor, transforming it into a melancholic cathedral where sanctity is shrouded by faceless ghosts. Amidst the opulence of the living room, Her beloved Steinway piano, the treasure of Aretha's lifetime, has become the epicenter of ghoulish phenomena. A witness from the asset management team recounted in horror that, on Easter Sunday, a thick, ink-like fluid began to ooze from between the ivory keys, dense and reeking of rot. If anyone so much as utters the words "will" or "money," an angry growl tears through the silence, followed by a sudden blast of icy air that freezes every emotion. More bone-chilling are the infrared camera recordings that have captured scenes to make any onlooker's skin crawl. Within the private home chapel, blurred, faceless entities appear, filling the wooden pews. They sit there, motionless and silent in the gloom, as if attending an eternal requiem that never ends. It is the ghostly authority of a powerful woman who, even from deep beneath the earth, uses her spirit to guard her final sanctuary, refusing to let greed tarnish the legacy of a legend. 10. The Louis Armstrong House, the broken cadence of Queens, New York. Behind the radiant and peaceful facade of this villa, Louis Armstrong's smile was extinguished by a cruel heart attack, leaving a soul still struggling within the choking grip of fate. Every room now feels like a time trap, where a lifetime of devotion has curdled into a bone-chilling curse. Within the narrow corridors, the silence is often shredded by a ghoulish sound emanating from the dark attic. It is no joyful jazz melody, but the blare of a trumpet, long, piercing, and distorted, like a siren cut short in the middle of a death rattle. A longtime curator recounts that the force of the spirit's lingering anguish is so immense that display cases spontaneously shatter into thousands of jagged shards under invisible pressure, untouched by any human hand. True horror reigns in the room where Louis drew his last breath. Visitors speak of a paralyzing sensation as they witness his aged armchair rock violently, accompanied by the ragged, wheezing gasps of a man in critical distress. When standing too close to the late legend's personal effects, many report an ice-cold hand suddenly clamping down on their wrist, gripping with a violent, dragging force, as if trying to transmit the primal terror of that final, crushing chest pain. It is the inescapable presence of an immortal voice, still clinging to reality in agony, desperately trying to finish one last note in the profound darkness of this house. 11. Ray Charles Estate, the Labyrinth of Shadows, Beverly Hills. Ray Charles spent a lifetime leading humanity through the darkness with his piano keys. But at his Beverly Hills estate, the darkness betrayed him, devouring him in his final days as he was tormented by liver failure. This place is no longer a luxury sanctuary. It has transformed into a predatory living entity, a realm of terrifying silence where shadows are no longer loyal companions, but hunters lurking behind velvet curtains, ready to stifle anyone who dares trespass into the private sanctuary of the blind genius. Witnesses who have stepped inside recount in horror how an invisible, ice-cold force frequently shoves aside anyone blocking its path, as if his spirit still surges in fury through the corridors he once knew by heart. More bone-chilling is how the wall ridges, specially designed to guide the visually impaired, suddenly warp and shift with ghoulish intent. They deceive the sense of touch, turning the house's only exit into a dead-end labyrinth, trapping victims in an endless loop of primal fear. Amidst the pitch-black night, one can glimpse a pair of sightless eyes suddenly glowing with a chilling, blue-gray light in the void. Those eyes do not see with ordinary vision. They pierce through the soul, scrutinizing the darkest sins hidden within the hearts of those who stand before them. 12. Sammy Davis Jr. Estate, the final curtain in a silent scream, Beverly Hills. Sammy Davis Jr. was once hailed as the greatest entertainer in the world, a master who used his voice and his feet to command the dazzling universe beneath him. At his Beverly Hills estate, the spotlights have never truly dimmed. They have merely shifted into a sickly, ghostly hue, exposing an eternal performance by a soul writhing within its own broken vessel. In the dead of night, the rhythmic clack-clack of tap shoes echoes from the void at the foot of the grand staircase. The ballroom grows heavy with dread as the clink of crystal glass twists into a violent shatter like 1,000 jagged shards piercing flesh. Stale whiskey and cigar smoke congeal into an ash-gray mist, choking the exit. From the gloom, a voice, raspy as metal scraping stone, whispers against your neck. The show is over, but I can't leave. This is the plea of a legend who spent a lifetime entertaining the world, only to be entombed within his own marble mausoleum, forever unable to utter a final word. long after the curtain of life has fallen. 13. The Maya Angelou Villa, the unfinished manuscript, North Carolina. Maya Angelou, the powerful voice of hope and resilience, slipped away quietly at 86. Yet, many believe her soul has found no rest. In the oppressive stillness of Winston-Salem, from behind the locked doors of her library, the dry, rhythmic clack-clack of a typewriter erupts, sounding like teeth chattering in the cold. Those who have dared to enter this room recount a terrifying sight, hundreds of blank pages suddenly taking flight, swirling into a blinding white vortex that shrieks around them as if to tear reality apart. Amidst the frigid wind howling from the rustling paper, a voice, deep, authoritative, yet echoing from the abyss, pierces through the chest. "I am not finished writing. Do not leave." Instantly, an ice-cold hand, stiff as a corpse, clamps onto your shoulder. It is more than a threat. It is a violent, dragging force. Maya Angelou remains there, in the impenetrable shadows of her library, using invisible fingers to carve haunting lines, ready to imprison anyone who stumbles into her world of unfinished words, forcing them to join her until the final page of this tear-stained manuscript is written. 14. Cherry Hill Villa, the knockout from the void, Muhammad Ali, New Jersey. Cherry Hill is more than a sprawling estate. It is the final fortress where the greatest, Muhammad Ali, trained and sought refuge during his resilient battle against the creeping shadows of Parkinson's. But make no mistake, the ring here has never been empty. Behind the stillness of New Jersey, a violent power endures, transforming the mansion's dark basements into a theater for eternal rounds against destiny. In the dead of the New Jersey night, from the depths of the cellar, the sound of fists hitting a heavy bag erupts. Thud, thud, dry, heavy, and devastating. The floorboards above shudder violently with every strike, as if the entire villa were buckling under the strength of an unseen giant. A longtime security guard recounted in shock that upon entering the gym, all light was eclipsed by a towering shadow. Massive as a mountain, the space fell into a deathly silence. Under the flicker of dying lights, punching bags weighing hundreds of pounds are suddenly launched toward the ceiling, swaying frantically as if struck by a lightning bolt knockout that tore through the air. A heavy, wheezing rasp of breath sounds right against your ear, the sound of a man at the very edge of life, yet still refusing to drop his gloves. In the bone-chilling silence of the Cherry Hill basement, that ragged breathing persists, shifting into a spine-tingling rhythm. When the gasping suddenly stops, it is no relief. It is the sign that the towering shadow has stepped away from the bag, turning its focus toward the only living soul left in the dark cellar. 50th, the Richard Pryor Villa, the Silent Fury, California. Richard Pryor, the king of satire, met his end in a cruel paradox. Imprisoned in a wheelchair by multiple sclerosis, at his California villa, the resentment of a genius rotting away within his own body has metastasized into a violent energy, turning the home into a battlefield of uncontrollable rage. In the terrifying silence of the dead of night, the sudden whir of an electric wheelchair racing through corridors at breakneck speeds shatters the peace. This is no ordinary movement. It is the sound of an engine roaring in fury before slamming into heavy wooden doors, a series of bone-jarring impacts that shudder through the entire house. Pryor's spirit seems to be clawing against the chains of infirmity, frantically searching for an exit that does not exist. The haunting reaches its peak when the villa's security cameras simultaneously capture an unthinkable scene. In the heart of the night, every television flickers to life, casting a gray, static glow over the empty halls. A terrified housekeeper recounted that from within that chaotic electromagnetic haze, Pryor's signature raspy laugh distorted into a scream of pure rage. Tearing through the air, the villa is now a glass cage for Pryor's soul, where he uses the wreckage of his sanctuary to lash out at fate. When the electric wheelchair suddenly jerks to a halt directly in front of a camera lens, facing the security room, it is the king of comedy staring back at the living, his eyes burning with absolute resentment. 60. The Sugar Hill Apartment, the strangled anthem of Billie Holiday, New York. Billie Holiday, whose voice brought an entire era to its knees, departed this world in utter humiliation. She drew her final breath in a hospital bed, her gaunt wrists still shackled to the rails by police under drug charges. At her Sugar Hill residence, The fury of that injustice has crystallized into a melancholic energy, transforming this space into a realm where freedom is denied even beyond the grave. Inside her bedroom, the air is perpetually heavy, thick with an oppressive weight. Sensitive visitors often recount in shock that, the moment they cross the threshold, they feel their wrists clamped by invisible, ice-cold shackles, a phantom pain so searing it feels as though Billy's soul is forcing them to share the final indignity she endured. Surveillance cameras occasionally capture mysterious plumes of cigarette smoke manifesting out of thin air. Though the room is empty, this smoke does not dissipate. Instead, it lingers, slowly coiling into the shape of a noose dangling from the ceiling. In that heartbeat, the scent of gardenias, her signature flower, erupts, becoming so cloyingly thick it smothers the very oxygen in the room. Staring at those grainy, blurred recordings, one cannot help but shudder at the realization that Lady Day has never truly left. She remains there, handcuffed to her own traumatic past, eternally crooning her sorrowful blues within the marble mausoleum of Sugar Hill. 17. The Luther Vandross Villa, the muted chord Connecticut. This opulent Connecticut villa is, in truth, a prison without bars, on where the shadows hold captive the final, lingering breaths of Luther Vandross. The velvet voice once warmed millions of hearts, but fate struck a cruel blow, a stroke that plunged him into absolute silence until his passing. Today, this villa is no longer a home. It has transformed into a colossal casket. Every timber and stone is saturated with the stifled anguish of a genius stripped of his voice, turning the house into a living entity of resentment. The darkness here is never still. It prowls, waiting to devour anyone who dares draw near to listen to the ghostly echoes seeping from the void. A longtime housekeeper recounted in terror how, in the spine-chilling stillness of the night, the ceiling speakers would suddenly activate on their own. He ran trembling to the basement, tearing every circuit breaker from the wall to silence the macabre noise. Yet the moaning would not stop. In that moment, the entire structure of the villa felt like a giant, decaying lung, struggling to exhale the final gasps of an eternal, silent fury. The terror peaked when the housekeeper felt a warm hand tap his shoulder amidst the suffocating darkness, so visceral that he instinctively whispered his master's name. But as he turned, inches from his face stood a shadow with hollow, sunken eyes, its mouth agape in a frantic, soundless scream. Luther is still there, not to spread fear, but writhing in a desperate struggle to reclaim the voice stolen by fate. The figure stands suspended in the void, trembling with a gaping, melancholic mouth, a love song strangled in the chest, forever unable to utter a final farewell. The velvet curtain has fallen, but be warned, the past never lies still beneath the earth. It lurks behind the drapes, waiting for a familiar soul to share its eternal loneliness. If tonight you hear a strange footstep or feel a light tap on your shoulder, do not turn around, for perhaps one of them is not yet ready for the final performance to end. If you found these mysteries worth uncovering and wish to explore more hidden corners of the entertainment world, please like and subscribe to help us guard these legacies. Don't forget to leave a comment about the legend you cherish most, or the dark secrets you want us to exhume next.